Hello everyone, welcome back to Cars and Cassettes. So I picked up on the interweb this here Panasonic. Now this has all the features that I would have looked for in my youth. Now back in the day when I would select a Walkman to get me through my day and my travels on my bicycle before I had a car, there were specific features I would look for. Number one, it had to have auto reverse, which this one has. Number two, it had to have an equalizer. I had to be able to adjust what I was shoving into my ears. And so something like this would have definitely sparked my interest. Now where I grew up, we only had a Kmart, and that was it. That was what you had. That was your selection. So you would go in the store, you would find all these cheap GPX brands, the ridiculous see-through Walkmans that didn't sound good, but they sounded really bad, and they would eat your tapes. Now the only thing available to me was either the entry-level Sony, or those cheap GPX, or this. I bought at least 4 of these as I can remember. That was 40 years ago. This was around 1989, 91. But this is the one I would find. And it had everything I liked. It had an Achilles heel. This thing, if I dropped it, it would break. This tab right here would snap. And then I wouldn't be able to close the battery compartment. And even if I closed it really hard or the batteries were tight, it would snap. So that's the reason I went through 3 or 4 of these. But what they did have, they had an amazing sound to them. A little bit of feedback, but that never really bothered me because I always had this thing full blast, just damaging my teenage ears. But this thing got me through a lot of trips back and forth to work on my bicycle when I was around 16, 17 years old, before I had a car. And then I couldn't find these anymore, and so I was left with the entry-level Sony that did not have auto reverse or an equalizer, but that's all there was. Then we got a Radio Shack, and I found an Optimus that did the job, but that's another story. Anyway, what we're gonna do, we're gonna see if this thing works. All right, let's see. Well, let's see if I can find some batteries for it. Okay. Found some batteries. Now to find these with the battery door, that's in itself an accomplishment. We got a little noise from the motor. I'm guessing this is going to be a belt issue. Let's see if the radio works. Radio was always my last resort. Okay, we do have radio. All right, so what we're going to do now is try to find a belt for it. So let's go ahead and get the batteries out. And let's pull this guy apart, see what's inside. I like to keep all these little screws somewhere safe. Well, that came off simple enough. Well, okay, let's see here. What do we got to deal with? Actually, looks like it's only screwed down by one screw right here. The mechanism looks quite simple. So as a kid, riding my bike back and forth to school and to work and back, this is definitely something that I would have invested my hard-earned money into, just because of the fact that it has auto-reversed and an EQ. So that I may be able to adjust what's going into my ears. Oh yeah, our belt is just gone. I wonder where it disintegrated to. Now I'm worried about finding chunks of belt throughout this system here. Now I love the way it's all black wire, so that's kind of what's holding me from pulling this thing up. But let's see if I can get a little bit of slack in it right there. That'll work. Now let's see if I can get this thing up far enough to get to the belt. But I also want to see where the belt is, because last thing I want is chunks of belt floating around in this thing. But it seems to have disappeared altogether. Okay. There is no evidence of a belt anywhere. And that's kind of scary. Makes me wonder if somebody's already been in here, or if that belt's going to come back to haunt me. Very interesting. Did that belt just vaporize? Well, no sense in spending a century looking for that. Let's see if I can find a belt that works on it. And so here's a bunch of square belts I bought online. I gotta find something that isn't too tight. If you get them too tight, it's going to really affect the drag that it's going to have. Anyway, I had to step out for a minute. Had to go give my bird a treat so he'd be quiet. All right, this one looks a little bigger. Let's try this one on for size. Now, this is a really simple mechanism, really easy to service. I'm actually really starting to like this thing. I hope it sounds good. This does fit a wee bit snug. I'm worried about the drag on this. Getting twists out of these belts is a pain. There we go. Now it appears I've got all the twists out. With my giant ham fingers. Leave, yes. There we go. That is in. And put all my belts back. That is strange. There's no evidence of a belt in there. Let's go ahead and put it back together and see if it does anything. Gee, I wonder where that belt could have gone. That is an interesting one. All right, moment of truth. Will it play music? See if it will rewind. No. Maybe if I click it to tape. Oh yeah, there we go. We have rewind. See if we get any feedback sound. very silent. Turn the volume all the way up. Oh. Now, Panasonic was kind of a hit or miss for me when I was a kid. Their high-end stuff was pretty nice, but their low-end tiny boom boxes and stuff like that, I mean, they were hit or miss. That is struggling. Let's see how the fast forward works. I mean, with auto reverse, you really never needed these features, because if you were really into cassettes, you'd make a mixtape of things that you'd like to hear, and you wouldn't have to worry about rewinding or fast forwarding. You just let it play, because that's what auto reverse was all about. Well, I'm afraid all we have is static and noise. For some reason, the radio works just fine, but I can't get anything out of the tape deck, which is a big shame. I had high hopes for this one. Seems like there's a capacitor bad for the motor, or a grounding issue. And you know what? I think I forgot to put a screw in. So let me try putting that screw in, because I'm pretty sure that grounds the board to the chassis. Just coming to think of it. Rookie mistake. But I don't usually doodle around with this stuff with a camera rolling. And I never was good at making excuses either. But anyway, let's see what it does after I put that screw back in. Hopefully that gets rid of our issue. Usually when you got a sound like that, it's going to be due to a capacitor or a grounding issue. And hopefully ours is the latter. This screw right here. All right, let's get that back in there. All right. All right, test number 2. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, that belt's definitely too tight. We'll have to find another one. Well, that belt was definitely too tight, but we did get sound out of it. So now I must try to find another belt. It's not quite so tight. That's why it's just so hard fixing these little guys, because everything is so precise on them. The belt has to be a specific length, because any drag or strain you put on that motor with just 3 volts of power to work from will cause it to drag like that. Okay, so I've got my batteries kind of rigged in there. See if I can clean that motor. Find me a tiny little bit to go into that groove and see if there's anything caught in it, for one. That motor's pretty strong. Get a piece of tissue paper and clean it up. Make sure that belt's not slipping. Got that motor running. I did apply a little bit of oil to all this stuff. So I'm going to take my tissue paper and just kind of wipe it off now. Don't want it dripping on the belt. Alright, so we did find a belt that worked. Found the speed control right here. Had to adjust that just a tiny bit. I just go by ear. Of course, you know this is the track I like to use. So let's get this guy all buttoned up and see how it actually sounds. Now, I will make me an access port right here so that I can adjust the motor speed. Just kind of get an eyeball of where that is. Seems like it's going to be right about there. Sort of right here. Make me a mark. I'm just going to drill me a hole in there so that I can adjust the motor speed as needed. And there we go. Just kind of eyeballed it, but yeah, I have access to it. Can make my motor adjustments on the go. All right, let's get everything back together. All right, there you have it. Let's see how it sounds. Got a bit of wow and flutter to it. What I've learned is after playing these for a while, they tend to even out. You just been sitting around for years. Need to get them gears working. Get that oil through them gears and it'll even out. But this is my favorite part of them. You can adjust what's going into your ears, which is the main selling point for me on any of this stuff. If I can't adjust the sound I'm putting in my ears, I wouldn't buy it. So had this been available to me back when I was a kid, oh, definitely I would have purchased this thing. It's already starting to sound better after letting it play for a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this play for a long time. Let it get back into shape. This needs a little workout, just like me. All right, made a few adjustments. Let's see what it does. Now, my favorite part. I mean, not too bad for 40-year-old electronics. Oh, it looks like it jumped back to life there. Now I expect it to do that quite a few times before it evens out. Remember, this thing has been sitting for, I mean, at least 30 years. More than that. I would say 35, 36 years. All the grease in the plastic gears is coming back to life. So it's going to be popping around the speed a little bit. That's why I drilled me a little access hole to control the motor speed. I'm going to take this for a jog or two, or bicycle ride around the neighborhood, around the park, and enjoy this guy. It actually sounds not too bad for what it is. Well, that'll do it for today. Thank you for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe if you can find it in your heart to do so. That way I can keep making these videos of things that I love and hopefully things that you love. Everybody have a great day.